Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. I'm Siddhartha, co-head of LM Credit Partners, the private credit strategy at Hill House Investments. I'm delighted to be joined by Shirish Apte, former chair of Citi Asia Pacific Banking, who, even post that role, has stayed active and quite closely involved with both the financial services and the Indian infrastructure side. Shirish, welcome. Indian development in the digital infrastructure has been incredible. It now accounts for almost 40% of global real time digital payments. Its development has been remarkably quick. So, how did we get here and this quickly?
Thanks, Sid. It's really nice to catch up with you. India is quite an incredible story over the last couple of decades, I would say. And obviously, for a country to get where it is uh, in a cycle that India is going through right now, a lot of things have happened in the past, uh, which has brought it to where it is today. And some of the key milestones, which I would sort of highlight. One of them was obviously uh, the whole idea of trying to get a unique ID for all Indians. And this was a project that was uh, co-headed by uh, the co-founder of Infosys, Nandan Nilekani. He joined the government in order to do that. It's been a huge success. Hundreds of millions of Indians have now got this biometric ID, which allows the banking system, for one thing, to recognize these people from a know your customer and other important points of view. But also eventually, the unique ID is being connected with taxes and a whole range of other services and benefits, which so many Indians still get. So underlining the whole digital payment network, which is now called in India the digital stack, underlining that to some extent is obviously the UID or the Aadhaar. That's one big piece. I think the second one that I would highlight, which sort of uh, preceded the whole digital revolution as we're seeing it today, is the goods and services tax. So India, prior to the full implementation of goods and services tax, had states which levied their own taxes, sales taxes. So when goods moved from one state to another, there were state taxes, there were leakages, there were a lot of friction, if you like, in trade in India. And the goods and services tax, which actually was proposed something like 20 years ago almost, and was implemented in the last 5 to 7 years, was a game changer because suddenly, one thing, obviously goods are moving more freely, but secondly, when you link it back to Aadhaar, uh, the revenue collection from goods and services increased quite substantially to the point that now the government has, because of the revenue collection, has been able to scale back some of the initially high goods and services tax rates. The third piece, which I think came in about 7, 8 years ago, was the bank accounts. Today, I think there are something like 315 million bank accounts. 350 million Indians have bank accounts in India. This number has probably quadrupled or even quintupled from where it was this 7, 8 years ago. The banks obviously in the beginning were very reluctant to open these accounts because a lot of these accounts have zero balances and are not very profitable from the bank's point of view, or were not very profitable from the bank's point of view. There's a lot of operational costs related with just opening and maintaining a bank account. It was mandated by the government. The sort of state-owned banks uh, took up the challenge, opened the account. State Bank of India obviously was one big one. But when you now link Aadhaar and you link the number of bank accounts and you link ESC and then you link the final piece, which is direct benefits transfer. So in India, when people who are below a certain income group or uh, who are entitled to subsidies, firstly, you can recognize that through the UID, the Aadhaar, because that tells you a lot of things about those people. Number two, the that Aadhaar or that UID is then linked to a bank account. So the government can start directly transferring these benefits to the beneficiaries and cutting out firstly the middleman and secondly, significantly removing both friction and leakage. So as you can imagine, when people had to get these amounts in cash, there was a huge amount of leakage. They didn't get everything they were entitled to. So that's another thing where the government says we're spending this much on subsidies. A very, very significant portion of that actually reaches people whom it is supposed to benefit. And then, of course, when you had all these little building blocks around it, um, the government then started looking at the payment rails. So what MasterCard, Visa, and some of the other uh, sort of payment companies offer is they offer the rails that you can go to a merchant and the merchant has connectivity through these payment channels. The government came out with something called UPI, which is the Unified uh, Payment Interface, which actually allowed people from anywhere to start sending money to bank accounts. So when you walk around India today, you'll find a lot of people have cards. They have uh, you know different ways in which they're willing to accept payments, and that has significantly improved a couple of things. One, they can see the money in their account. Number two, the speed with which they collect money is that much faster. But I think most importantly, what this has done is it begins to reduce the amount of cash in circulation in the country. Now, a country like India always had a fairly large, what we call unorganized economy, where
The alternate economy.
the alternate economy, where cash was the true means of trade. Um, it wasn't easy to track the cash. Quite often, it was always impossible to tax people when it was just simply trade done by cash. Now, when that is being replaced by bank accounts and it is being replaced by funds transfers directly into bank accounts, and then those bank accounts getting linked to tax IDs through the Aadhaar card, you begin to see how revenue collection in India today has gone up by about 30%
That's impressive.
from where it was as a percentage of GDP. So that then allows the government, for one thing, to spend money, invest in the economy, which is what they're doing for infrastructure without blowing the budget, without causing inflation. So there's a whole knock on, and the beneficiary of all that is, as you say, the digital payments system, where I believe today trillions of rupees are transacted online daily.
We obviously saw globally the use of digital payment systems getting a lot more common during COVID, where for a variety of reasons people didn't want to handle cash. With now that in the rearview mirror, do you see people anecdotally people going back to old habits, or this is just so embedded that and so easy now to use that there's no going back?
I don't think there's any going back from the digital and the uh, sort of go online and order online and then pay online system that's now evolved in India. Partly convenience. So suddenly, people are able to sit at home and order food, order whatever they want. It gets delivered. That's why you can see all these delivery companies like Zomato and others doing so extremely well. That's one side of it. I don't see. You may see competition, but I don't see that business model disappearing anytime soon. So that's one part. I think that the other thing is, as you know, just getting around city is very difficult. So, so people saying, well, if I have to buy something, why do I have to go to the shop anymore? I can just do it online. And once you do that, the only way you can pay online is through um, these digital apps. So I think it's very much here to stay. And if anything, I think it will just get more traction. I mean, just from a banking point of view, from some of the banks that I know of in India, the volume of transactions that are today digitally originated and completed has gone from something like 40-50%. I think it's close to 90% today.
That's a big shift. That's a fairly significant paradigm shift. Like with most journeys, it would not be linear. There would be speed bumps on the road. We've seen that more recently with some of the regulatory concerns that the central bank had with some of these payment gateways. Um, that, or do you see any other showstoppers, or do you see any other things to watch out for in this journey?
Some of the big challenges that the government's still going to have to work on, or some of the payment people are going to have to work on. One is obviously cyber. I mean, you think about the the Aadhaar database and what it has, the information it has on something like 600 million Indians. So I would say there are issues like that. I'm sure both the government as well as uh, the people who actually manage that database are very, very aware of it. But that's something which is uh, something that needs to be watched very carefully. The whole digital side has its own uh, issues, because things go down and you've got to keep updating and keep upgrading. So that's one area. I think the other one that I would point out, there's a lot of infrastructure that was gone into India, physical infrastructure, such as roads and bridges and etc. I think there's now what we need, what we continue to need is the software, as you call it, in infrastructure. One of them is on the whole technology. I mean, for the technology revolution to continue to grow, we need to have, as I said, better broadband, better fiber cables getting laid, 5G across, 6G when necessary. And that's where, the large telcos are saying, hey, listen, our revenues have got so squeezed and the license fees we are paying you are so high. Where do we have the money to invest in 5G, 6G? But if you don't get that, a lot of the benefits we've seen from the digitization of the payments and other infrastructure will slowly start disappearing because, when it starts taking you, instead of taking 5 seconds, it starts taking you a minute or 2 minutes to get a payment going through. That's not, that doesn't help.
Final question. We've talked a little bit about the past. We've talked about what's worked and what's not. We've talked a lot about the present. What's the next step in the journey if you crystal gaze a little bit, and where does Indian financial infrastructure go from here?
So let me talk a little bit more generally about what is some of the game plan, if you like, where India is looking at. And obviously they want to become a very major player in the digital space. So they're going into microprocessors, they're going backwards, they're going into hardware, they're going forwards, they're going into software. They're looking at all the different connections. India has actually started going beyond just simply domestic payments. So UPI is now, I think, operating in something like 8 or 10 countries, including Singapore, Dubai, France. So people can make payments into India and get payments out of India on the UPI rails. So that's one area where they're looking at going global with the UPI. And I think one area where one segment to be very big for India, if it works out, is obviously Africa, where there is already a nascent, I would say to some extent, a developed digital payments network, but not in the same way that you have in India. And so possibilities that, some of this could work in markets outside India. I'm very bullish on India, and I think a lot of people are very bullish on India. But it still needs a lot of work. I mean, a $4 trillion economy, the fifth largest, moving towards the fourth, moving towards maybe the third in the next 3 to 4 years. Sounds fabulous, but per capita GDP is only 2,500. And so in that sense, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to pull India out and make it into a, into a developed economy. I think by the time we are 100 years of independence, we should become a middle level developed economy for sure. That's another 20 years out. But if you want to get to the ambition of a developed economy, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, a lot of investments that need to go into the company.